Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom. I am my fourth semester here in Intel. I do automation engineering, and I will do for you a brief timeline of video games. So I decided to pick a subject which is one of my favorites, I guess, and is the one I have previous knowledge to talk about, because as Anderson, I received the mail quite late, so I had to rush something up. But I hope it will go smooth. So, there are many claims about what was the first video game. I decided to pick the Brown Box. Actually, the Brown Box wasn't the first game. Many people did some in the 50s and 60s, some basic circuits which used oscilloscopes and potentiometers to play games. It was a quite rudimentary kind of circuit. But the Brown Box was the first thing more similar to what we have today, to modern day consoles. So it could be strapped on the TV, and two players played. Also, you can see it was some potentiometers they used. There was some Pong style kind of game. So it was quite a simple thing. It was invented by Ralph H. Baker. He is considered the father of video games. And later it was sold to Magnavox, which was a TV company. And they saw the potential for something they could use on their TVs. But actually for Magnavox it wasn't a good deal, because their console, the Odyssey, which was the name they chose for the Brown Box, it didn't give any success. So it was quite a fail for them. So then we have on 77 the Atari, which is probably one of the most known video games of the old times. And it was probably the real start for this industry. It had some quite successful titles on the time. It had Pong, which is that classic with the two bars and the little ball. This one I forgot the name, but also I guess everybody just saw the picture sometime. This next. And then on the 80s came probably the big boom of the gaming industry, which was Pac-Man. Pac-Man, still, even being a game of the 80s, is still one of the highest grossing games of all time, so it sold a lot. It was played both on the Atari and on arcade machines, which was that big boxes that we had on arcades. It was the most influential game of the 80s. And actually, there are some research that indicate that Pac-Man is the most influential game character of all time. So, like, more than 90% of the people who see the character, the little yellow ball, recognize him as a video game character. So it's quite famous one. Then on 83, we entered the 8-bit era, with Nintendo making their move with the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. So this one was quite a successful video game. By the time video games was getting more popular, and Nintendo probably was the company responsible for making video games widespread across the world. Yes, it was the best-selling video game of the 8-bit era. There are many franchises that born on the NES and still live, like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Final Fantasy, and many others. So the birth of many famous franchises was here. And I had one actually, so it's kind of a good memory. I spent a lot of time playing on that, so it was quite a good video game.
There is no way for Zelda to play Zelda.
So on 83 also was the birth of I guess also one of the most important video game characters, which is Mario. So Mario became actually Nintendo's mascot. Every time Nintendo does some kind of advertising Mario is related. These pictures are actually from Super Mario 3, and it was a big selling game. It came packaged with the NES, so probably it was the most successful game of that console. And so Mario became a big pop icon. Everybody knows him. So yeah, the video game industry also has always been marked by some big rivals. And today we have PlayStation and Xbox, but back in the day it was Nintendo and Sega. So Nintendo made their move with the NES, and Sega on '85 launched the Master System, which was also a console which used 8-bit architecture. And actually it didn't make so much noise on the United States and in Japan, which was the biggest markets at the time. But the Master System was especially successful in Brazil and Europe. So many people here on our country had one back in the day. And the Master System also marked a birth of some franchises, but it wasn't near the Nintendo's rate of success. So Sega decided they were quite back in the market, so they decided to make their next move earlier than Nintendo. And in '88, they already gone to the 16-bit era with the Sega Genesis, also known here in Brazil as the Master System. So the Master System, it launched 3 years after the Mega Drive. The Mega Drive launched 3 years after the Master System. So it quite took out the Master System out of the market, and people started to move here because the jump from 8-bit to 16-bit was a big jump. The technologies in sound and graphics today may sound, it seems a bit rough graphics, but back in the days it was a huge advancement. So people were really excited with this new generation of consoles. So 2 years later, Nintendo saw they were losing a big market share with the launch of the Mega Drive from Sega, and they had to make a move. They were quite far behind on the market, so they made the Super NES, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and the SNES was also a big success on the market. So even they launched it 2 years later than Sega, they managed to turn the table on their favor. So it was the best-selling console of the 16-bit era. Like the NES was the best-selling console of the 8-bit, and the SNES of the 16-bit. It was the move of Nintendo against Sega. So at that time, when there was the Mega Drive and the SNES, these two companies had some really, I don't know the word, had some X-rays, I'm not sure that those are disputes. And Nintendo always made some advertising based on a more family focused video game. Sega, on the other side, decided to go from our teenage route, something more edgy, more, I don't know, something more rebel, I guess. So yeah, Nintendo had Mario as their mascot, and Sega, since they were in this big river, Sega had to make their own mascot. So in '91 was born Sonic the Hedgehog, which is also one of the most iconic characters in gaming history. In Brazil, there's a funny history that Hedgehog is like ouriço in Portuguese, but here in Brazil it was translated as porco-espinho, so they aren't the same animal, and many people still think he is a porco-espinho, but actually he's not, he's a hedgehog. So Sonic had a different catch than Mario. he was a more speed-focused character. He was something more fast, and actually it was part of the Sega's plan of merchandising the character, since it was something more focused on teenagers and such. Okay, so in '92 it was born Mortal Kombat. Actually, by that time there was already some fighting games like Street Fighter and such, but Mortal Kombat marks a pretty important spot on this timeline, because he was the catalyst for the creation of the ESRB, which is the Entertainment Software Rating Board. So actually now, when you go to buy a game, you have these ratings saying it is only for adults or teenage and up, children and up, because this game was really violent by the time standards, and there was especially one controversial move on them, which was called the fatalities. One of them involved the character grabbing the spine of the other and ripping it up from his body, so people got really impressionated by that. Okay, on '92 also was the birth of Wolfenstein 3D. Wolfenstein is the precursor of the FPS genre. So FPS is this kind of game where you see the action by the perspective of your character. You see him holding the gun, and Wolfenstein involved the main character invading a Nazi fortress. So actually it wasn't that much of a success, but it was a really important game because it helped to popularize the 3D environments, because most games at the time were 2D, and it began the 3D era, and also the FPS genre, which is one of the biggest today. It all began here on Wolfenstein. So Wolfenstein didn't make much noise when it was launched, but on '93 it was born Doom. Doom, on the other side, was quite a hit on the market, because actually it involved the same principles as Wolfenstein, but Wolfenstein involved you fighting Nazis, so much people just accepted that. But Doom, on the other hand, it goes for some pretty ugly demons. And as I said, on Mortal Kombat's controversy, violence, and video games always had a troublesome history. So Doom was, I don't know, shocked many people. And it's pretty much, you see, when something had that much of impact, it just gains free marketing. So people just wanted to see what's wrong with this game, why everybody is so scandalized by it. And it became a big hit, so everybody wanted to see what is Doom. And it marked the rise of the FPS market. So Wolfenstein planted the seed, but Doom was the one to make it sprout. So let's go a little briefer now. On '95, it was the launch of the PlayStation 1. The PlayStation, some people say it was the first console to use a CD to run its games, because before it was used some, I forgot the word for cartridge, exactly. So it was used cartridge, but actually before the PlayStation there were some other tries to do video games that used CDs, none of them as successful as the PlayStation 1 were. So it began the modern day consoles era. You see the PlayStation still exists today. Now it is on its 4th version. And also it marked the rise of many franchises. It became the most advanced games. It has, since CDs have a much bigger capabilities than cartridges, it just has so much potential, and the developers for the games just gone crazy with that. They could do many new things. So on 2000 was the launch of the PlayStation 2. I guess this one is the most most successful console of all time. Here in Brazil, everybody had a PlayStation 2, so it was a quite important landmark on this time. In 2001, it was the launch of Xbox. Xbox was the first move of Microsoft on the gaming industry. The first Xbox wasn't that much of a success, because actually almost the whole market was dominated by Sony with their PlayStation. But the Xbox paved the way for the next move of Microsoft, which will be on 2006, the Xbox 360. So the Xbox 360 has some new advanced systems. They gone for a more, internet-based route. There's many social integration with this console. So it began the era for video games of social interaction. It has the Xbox Live, which is a system of internet-based communication with other players, and it became Microsoft became an important player on this market. Sega, on the other hand, you can see it's not even present here on this list, because Sega, after the Mega Drive, it was a declining process. It launched the Sega Saturn, which not many people liked, then the Dreamcast, which did some success but only limited. So they just vanished from the market. Nintendo, on the other hand, still going strong here. So in 2006 was the launch of the Nintendo Wii. The Nintendo Wii has a different objective than the other consoles. It's much more a family-based console. So it has these more simple titles, but on the other hand, they involve more interaction from the player. Not sure everybody here knows Wii has this motion controls, and the games are more childlike mostly. 2007, the PlayStation 3 was launched. Considering the success of Sony, it also was a big hit. So Sony is probably the major player nowadays. Microsoft not far behind, and Nintendo gets the more child grab of the market. So what's next? Then we saw the first Mortal Kombat some minutes ago, and then now we are on the 10th version of the game, Mortal Kombat X. So you can see things have evolved a lot. It still is a highly controversial title. Many people are still shocked by it because it has violence, much violence. Wolfenstein also, it's a bit different now. You can see it evolved quite a lot from that first Nazi fighting game. Now it has some pretty neat environments. Batman also now. Batman have a strange history with video games, because almost all games that were launched about him were bad. They were like really crap. But then with Batman Arkham Asylum, which was launched in 2009, I guess, things started to change. Now the Caped Crusader is also a pretty much important character on the video game industry. We have The Witcher 3. It's an RPG, so this one is more PC based, and we talk mostly about consoles, but also the PC has a big market there. It will be launched on consoles too, but it is developed mostly for the PC. And many more. Let's go on. So we have plenty of titles that will be launched, and I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation as much as I did. Sorry for the mistakes, I am a bit nervous here. So thank you all. Any questions?